The sky over Manhattan glows in a dark pink and purple hue. This is not a natural sunset, but the beginning of a desperate mission to save humanity from being wiped out. Deep in the city streets, a massive monster known as the Behemoth, the monster of the end, emerges amidst crackling purple lightning and violent storms. Terrified onlookers watch in horror as the colossal beast tears through the urban landscape. Humanity's top players are struggling just to stay alive, their defensive formations crumbling under the pressure of this demon-like giant. To understand how the world ended up on the brink of destruction, we have to look back to the year 2010. That was when a mysterious, universe-wide game called BattleNet first appeared on Earth. At first, it was just a competition between human nations. But everything changed in 2022 when the Space League opened up. Suddenly, humanity was forced to fight against terrifying extraterrestrial species for their very survival. Earth's representatives lost match after match. By the year 2023, only 10 nations are left standing on Earth, and the entire planet is at risk of being completely deleted by the system. Back in the ruins of New York, one man decides to take matters into his own hands. His name is Song Ji-han. With dark hair and intense eyes, he steps forward as explosive purple and blue energy swirls around him. With a single, decisive strike, Ji-han does the impossible. He defeats the legendary Behemoth all by himself. A blue system notification flashes, confirming that the United States has successfully cleared the mission. But this victory comes at a heavy cost. Standing atop the monster's giant corpse, Ji-han is completely exhausted, his arm crackling with the beast's corrosive evil energy. Even though Ji-han is ranked 7th in the entire world, he is treated like a complete outsider by his own guild, American First. The guild's leader is Baron Williams, the top-ranked player in the world. Instead of checking on Ji-han, Baron immediately claims the boss's reward chest. While a priestess named Sophia rushes to heal Ji-han's poisoned arm, Baron coldly hands out the rare loot only to his favorite American guild members. When other players ask why the actual hero of the raid is being completely ignored, Baron dismisses Ji-han as a mere refugee from a fallen nation, calling him nothing more than a useful dog. Ji-han quietly walks away, swallowing his anger and the crushing guilt of being a survivor who couldn't save his own homeland. Shortly after, the system announces the brutal results of the Bronze League demotion mission. To succeed, over half of humanity's players needed to survive. Unfortunately, only the United States and China managed to pass. Powerhouse nations like Russia and Japan failed completely. This failure forces humanity into a final, make-or-break demotion match against a savage orc faction. Believing they don't need Ji-han's help, an arrogant Baron Williams decides to lead the human team into battle without him. But this overconfidence proves to be a fatal mistake. Without Ji-han, the human representatives are completely overwhelmed and brutally slaughtered by the orcs. Having lost the match, humanity is demoted from the Bronze League, declared worthless by the system, and marked for total deletion. The deletion process begins instantly. The Earth literally cracks apart, dissolving into a dark void of purple energy as billions of lives vanish into nothingness. Soon, Song Ji-han is the only human left, floating silently in the empty expanse of space. But Ji-han refuses to disappear. His unique SSS rank skill, the Nameless Divine Arts, begins actively fighting back against the system's deletion protocol. This unbelievable display of willpower catches the attention of powerful, mysterious cosmic entities. Amazed by his potential, these higher beings hold a vote to decide Ji-han's fate. The majority agrees that he deserves another chance, prompting the system to trigger a special regression protocol, sending Ji-han back to the very beginning of the BattleNet era. Ji-han suddenly gasps for air, waking up on the floor of a messy apartment surrounded by empty alcohol bottles. Confused, he runs to the window and looks outside. Instead of a ruined wasteland, he sees the clean, untouched skyline of South Korea in the year 2020, back when the global game first started. Ji-han quickly opens his status window to confirm what just happened. He has indeed traveled back in time, though his level has been reset all the way down to level 2. Staring out at the peaceful city, Ji-han realizes the incredible opportunity he has been given. Armed with all his memories of the future, he resolves to do whatever it takes to grow stronger, rewrite history, and protect his loved ones from the incoming apocalypse. South Korea was once a dominant force in the global BattleNet League. Much of this success was thanks to Yoon Se-jin, a legendary warrior known as the Sword King. But on this exact day, the country is thrown into complete chaos. Se-jin holds a sudden press conference to announce he is renouncing his Korean citizenship. He is changing his name to Ito Ryuhei and joining Japan's forces. This betrayal marks the beginning of a dark era for Korea, starting a downward spiral from which the nation will never recover. Sitting in his messy apartment, Song Ji-han watches the news broadcast with quiet anger. In his past life, the Sword King's departure left a massive void, leading to Korea's ultimate destruction when the game turned into a real-world war. Ji-han looks at a cracked photo of his sister and her husband, the man who just betrayed them. Frustrated by his weak level 2 status, Jihan punches the living room wall. He is weak now, but he has a major advantage. He knows exactly what is going to happen, and he is determined to use that knowledge to change the future. Jihan checks his status screen to see what he is working with. He is reminded of how foolish he was in his youth. Back then, he spent his days drinking and gambling, ignoring his F-rank gift called Wanderer's Eyes. He used to think the ability was only good for predicting match outcomes for quick cash. He had no idea its true value would only unlock after he awakened. Even his current level 2 status was just a mistake from when he accidentally drank a valuable experience potion while drunk. But as Jihan looks closer at his interface, he notices something impossible. He has 100,000 achievement points. This is an astronomical amount for a low-level player. It turns out his regression granted him a unique EX rank item called the Achievement Points Exchange Coupon. This was a special reward meant only for the last survivor of humanity who dared to try again. Jihan uses the coupon to unlock the achievement store, which normally sells basic upgrades like extra class slots. Instead of buying cheap, low-level items, Jihan decides to take a massive gamble. He spends his points to upgrade the store itself. He repeatedly levels it up until it reaches level 4. This unlocks a powerful, rare feature called Urgent Restoration. This ability has the power to completely repair a broken, useless item back to its original state. All Jihan needs now is a broken item worth saving. To find one, Jihan sneaks into the private gaming room of his brother-in-law, Yoon Sejin. Since the system still recognizes Jihan as a family member, the security system lets him right in. Inside Sejin's virtual inventory, Jihan finds a broken, useless A-rank item called Dongfang Shuo's Spoilt Brush. Jihan immediately activates Urgent Restoration. Energy flashes across the interface as the system repairs the item, transforming the broken brush into its legendary SS rank pristine state, now known simply as Dongfang Shuo's brush. With only seconds left before his tutorial begins, Jihan prepares to awaken his powers. In his past life, Jihan eventually became the world's 7th ranked player, earning the title of the Martial Saint. He achieved this by using a unique, combined stat called Martial Power. Now, holding the newly restored SS rank brush, he channels its energy to merge his strength, agility, and health into this single, legendary stat. As the countdown hits 0, the transformation is complete. Jihan gains 5 points of martial power, along with 10,000 bonus achievement points for unlocking a unique stat. The system instantly teleports Jihan to the sandy floor of a massive coliseum. He is standing alongside 99 other players. The goal of this tutorial is simple. Everyone must survive the Colosseum's monsters until only half of the players remain. Because Jihan logged in without using a physical battle connector device, the system warns him that he will feel 100% of the pain from any injuries. Jihan calmly accepts the risk. Suddenly, a new notification pops up on his screen. It is a limited-time quest, offering a massive reward of 1,000 achievement points if he can take first place in the tutorial. Before he can even make a plan, another player wearing a red jacket charges at him, shouting a threat. But Jihan is no longer a weak level 2 player. Using his newly awakened martial power, he easily dodges the strike and defeats the attacker in a single flash of blue energy. As the survival game officially begins, Jihan coldly thanks his first target, ready to show the world what the Martial Saint can really do. In the global phenomenon of BattleNet, the stakes are incredibly high, and nations pour massive resources into training elite players. In South Korea, aggressive investments from major enterprises have led to the creation of powerful guilds to secure the best talent early on. The premier stage for these organizations is the Gangnam Bronze League, specifically Gangnam Area 1. This is the debut arena where the rising stars of each guild compete to make their names known, making it the ultimate proving ground for rookies. One of these highly anticipated rookies is Do Hayakyu, representing the prestigious Divergent Guild. Backed by a massive conglomerate, Hayakyu possesses an exceptionally rare A-rank gift called Agility. This ability dramatically boosts his speed, allowing him to bypass standard league restrictions and outrun almost any opponent. Confident that he will easily secure a spot in the top 50, Hayakyu scans the chaotic Colosseum, looking for an easy target. That is when he spots an unusual sight: a young man standing in the dirt, wearing nothing but casual sweatpants and a singlet. Assuming this undergeared player is just a helpless newbie summoned by mistake, Hayakyu smiles at his luck. He draws his blade and charges forward, eager to claim what he believes is a free and effortless kill. But the seemingly defenseless rookie is actually Shang Jihan. As the speeding blade closes in, Jihan does not even flinch. He simply raises his hand and catches the sword between two fingers, freezing Hayakyu's momentum instantly. Hayakyu is completely stunned, unable to comprehend how a supposed novice could easily read and stop an A-rank speed attack. Jihan calmly looks at him, mocking the rookie for relying on such a basic gift in a highly competitive arena. Enraged by the disrespect, Hyakyu pushes his speed to the absolute limit for one final, desperate strike. To Jihan, however, this is child's play. Even though adjusting to a weak, level 2 body is slightly awkward, his mind still possesses the reflexes of a battle-hardened veteran. Hyakyu's maximum speed looks incredibly slow, and his attack path is completely predictable. Jihan effortlessly steps aside, disarms the rookie, and drives the blade straight through his chest. As Hyakyu dissolves into blue particles, he furiously vows to defeat Jihan in their next matchup. Jihan realizes that while players do not permanently die in this league, their gear vanishes with them upon defeat. This leaves him empty-handed once again, but he does not have time to dwell on it. Having secured his first 100 achievement points, Jihan scans the battlefield and notices the other players are actively avoiding a dangerous group of pig-faced orcs. In the standard rules of BattleNet, hunting monsters is incredibly inefficient. They are dangerous to fight in groups, and they reward only a tiny fraction of the points a player would get from defeating a human opponent. But just as Jihan is about to look for another player, a unique notification pops up. The system offers him a limited-time quest to wipe out the entire horde of 30 orcs. The reward is a staggering 500 achievement points, which is 5 times more than a player kill. Recognizing a massive opportunity to accelerate his growth, Jihan charges directly toward the green-skinned beasts completely barehanded. The tutorial monsters are nothing compared to the lethal threats of his past life. Moving with unmatched precision, Jihan dodges their heavy swings, disarms his attackers, and hurls their own weapons back at them, claiming his first 5 kills as he begins to systematically dismantle the entire horde. Surrounded by a horde of red-eyed, green-skinned orcs screaming for his head, Shang Jihan does not show a hint of fear. He weaves through their heavy swings, retaliating with his basic wooden weapon. But there is a catch. His simple gear cannot withstand the sheer intensity of his own strikes. With a sharp crack, the wooden weapon snaps right in half. The orcs immediately laugh, believing this is their golden opportunity to tear him apart. But Jihan remains completely unbothered. He calmly calls the monsters pathetic for making so much noise during what was supposed to be an ambush. Standing barefoot in the sand, he prepares to unleash his raw martial power. Rather than retreating, Jihan steps forward and delivers a devastating, ground-shattering strike. The impact unleashes an explosive shockwave that sends the charging monsters flying in every direction. He moves dynamically across the battlefield, leaving a trail of blue energy slashes in his wake. The remaining monsters watch in horror, realizing they are fighting a literal monster in human skin. Within moments, the entire horde is wiped out. A system alert confirms that Jihan has completed the secret quest, rewarding him with 500 achievement points and a level up. To his surprise, the level up happens right in the middle of the match, rather than after the final calculations. He decides to use this opportunity immediately. Jihan opens his status window to distribute his newly gained stat point. He decides to invest it directly into his unique stat, martial power. This is an incredibly powerful attribute that combines strength, agility, and stamina, effectively doubling his physical abilities. More importantly, reaching 30 points in this stat is the essential requirement to unlock a legendary SSS rank technique known as the Unnamed Divine Arts. Normally, players cannot increase this stat so easily. It typically requires immense battle experience and training, with standard stat points only raising the maximum potential growth rate. But due to his regression, the system works differently for Jihan. The point directly increases his martial power to 6, giving him an unforeseen advantage that defies the standard rules. Before he can savor the moment, an arrow flies directly toward his head. Jihan casually tilts his head to dodge it. 2 new opponents step out from the shadows: a smug, long-haired archer and a heavily armored knight. Both wear a distinct emblem on their uniforms, marking them as members of the Turtle Guild, one of the top 10 organizations in the country. Even though this survival map is a free-for-all, guild members often team up to secure easy victories. Seeing Jihan barefoot and wearing simple sweatpants, the duo assumes he is a defenseless target. They even make a deal over who gets to claim the easy kill. But Jihan sees this as a perfect opportunity. Looking at the scoreboard, he is barely holding on to first place with 4 kills, and decides to use them to secure his lead while testing his newly boosted martial power. Without hesitation, Jihan lunges forward. In a rapid blur of movement, he strikes down and kills the female archer, leaving her partner in absolute shock. The knight immediately blocks Jihan's next strike, boasting that his B-rank guild armor is incredibly durable and cannot be pierced by such a basic weapon. Jihan remains completely calm. Instead of backing down, he uses his weapon to strike the exact same spot on the knight's chest with rapid fire, pinpoint precision. The knight screams in terror as his durable armor begins to crack under the relentless pressure. Mocking their lack of preparation, Jihan steps in to finish him off, proving that even high-grade defense is completely meaningless against refined technique. Meanwhile, in the dimly lit headquarters of the prestigious Divergent Guild, The head of human resources, Lee Haeun, is watching Jihan's battle stream alongside her bodyguard, Lim Ga-young. Haeun is highly surprised by Jihan's incredible combat display. She expresses relief that Ga-young, who currently holds second place on the scoreboard, was not summoned near him, as it could have led to an early disqualification. Ga-young looks serious, suggesting that it might be wise to avoid matching with this mysterious player altogether. However, Haeun confidently orders her to fight and defeat him if they meet. Ga-young agrees to follow the order, but as she stares intently at the monitor showing Shang Jihan in action, she feels a strange sense of familiarity, swearing that she has seen this powerful warrior somewhere before. Lim Ga-young was widely recognized as one of the most promising talents in the Divergent Guild, thanks to her incredibly rare S-rank gift. Everyone expected her to easily dominate the leaderboards, but her path to the top was suddenly blocked by Shang Jihan. Even though Jihan was only level 2 and wearing basic sweatpants, he had racked up 6 kills to steal the first place spot. This left rival organizations like the Turtle Guild in absolute disbelief, desperately trying to figure out how a low-level rookie was breaking all the standard rules of the game. Meanwhile, Jihan was back in his apartment, completely relaxed as the system processed his tutorial victory. Securing first place rewarded him with a massive 50% experience boost, instantly raising his level from 2 to 6. This rapid growth is normal for rookies, but Jihan knew how to make the most of it. He immediately invested his 3 new stat points into his unique stat, Martial Power, bringing it to 9. On top of that, the system awarded him a special title called Tutorial Conqueror. This title gave him a permanent 20% experience boost in the Bronze League and a +1 bonus to all his attributes, pushing his martial power to 10 and his mana to 6. With his level up complete, Jihan reached a major turning point, choosing his official class. In his past life, he had chosen to be a warrior, which would be the easiest path to replicate. However, Jihan had a different strategy in mind because of his massive stockpile of achievement points. The system allowed players to buy an extra class slot for 10,000 points from the achievement store. Since Jihan had accumulated over 100,000 points, he could easily afford to unlock multiple classes later. This financial freedom allowed him to make a surprising move, selecting the highly unconventional support class instead of warrior. The system even flagged the choice as highly incompatible with his physical profile, but Jihan locked it in anyway. His decision to become a support was not a mistake. He chose this path specifically because the support class automatically unlocks a special attribute called Divine Power, starting it at 5 points. Jihan needed this specific attribute to unlock and grow another powerful unique stat in the future. Normally, players dread dealing with Divine Power because it cannot be increased through standard physical workouts, making it incredibly tedious to level up. Jihan did not want to waste his hard-earned achievement points on manual upgrades. Instead, he planned to use a highly effective training method from his memories that the general public knew nothing about. Before long, Jihan entered his next Bronze League mission, which took place in a defense-style map set in the Gangnam area. The objective was straightforward but brutal. Players had to defend a glowing blue crystal atop a stone castle and survive waves of red-eyed zombies until only 5 defensive towers remained. Ga-young, wearing her red and gold warrior uniform, was also sorted into the same team. She quickly analyzed her allies, noting a well-geared archer and a pink-haired mage wielding a powerful magic staff. But the team's initial confidence quickly shattered when they realized their final member was Jihan, and that he was registered as their support. The pink-haired mage immediately lost his temper. He began screaming about Jihan's cheap clothes and lack of real support gear, furiously refusing to carry a useless teammate. The toxic player threw a tantrum, declaring that he would not participate and demanding that the others do all the work. While Ga-young quietly grumbled about the loud distraction, Jihan decided to solve the problem himself. He calmly grabbed the yelling mage by his collar, agreeing to grant his wish of not playing. In one smooth motion, Jihan hoisted the toxic player up and hurled him over the castle walls, straight down into the waiting horde of hungry zombies. Leaving his remaining teammates in absolute, speechless shock, Jihan casually rested his staff against his shoulder, telling them they would do just fine without the quitter. After being thrown over the castle wall, the arrogant mage, Kim Gyu-hyuk, immediately resurrects back on the tower. But his attitude is completely different now. He drops to his knees, bowing deeply and begging Jihan for forgiveness. This sudden change of heart is because of a brutal rule in the Bronze League. In this defense game, every player is granted only 3 lives. Since Jihan just killed him once, Gyu-hyuk has only 2 lives left. If he dies one more time, he faces a devastating last place penalty. This penalty drops a player's character level, which would automatically delete all the high-level skills he purchased with real money. Desperate to save his investment, Gyu-hyuk tries to bargain. He smiles nervously, boasting that he is a level 15 fire mage. He points out that fire magic is essential for clearing massive zombie crowds, believing the team cannot afford to lose him. But Ga-young knows exactly who he is. She recognizes Gyuhyuk as a former member of a top 10 guild who was kicked out for being a chronic loser. Despite his terrible reputation, Gyuhyuk's ego gets the better of him. He demands a condition for his help, insisting that Jihan must apologize to him for the previous kill. The blonde archer tries to play peacemaker, hoping to keep the team together. Jihan, however, is only amused by the demand. Instead of apologizing, Jihan calmly grabs Gyuhyuk by the collar again. Ignoring the mage's panicked protests, Jihan effortlessly hurls him over the castle walls for a second time. A blue system notification flashes, confirming Gyuhyuk's second death. He is now down to his very last life. Jihan turns to his stunned teammates and casually advises them to have some common sense next time. But with their only mage temporarily out of the fight, the defense immediately falls apart. The zombie horde begins to overwhelm them. The blonde archer panics, complaining that they need fire magic to survive and avoid last place, blaming Jihan's massive ego for ruining their chances. Jihan, however, is completely unbothered. He calmly opens his system interface to check his active quests. Alongside his main objective of securing first place, a highly lucrative side quest appears. It is called The Zombie's Origin. The task is simple but incredibly difficult. Jihan must single-handedly kill 1,000 zombies. If he succeeds, he will earn a massive reward of 3,000 achievement points. Normally, killing 1,000 enemies alone within the time limit is practically impossible. But Jihan has no intention of letting those precious points slide. Watching him, Gaeyoung grows increasingly frustrated. To her, Jihan is just a selfish teammate playing a completely useless class. When the angry archer snaps and tells Jihan to just fight alone if he is going to act like this, Jihan surprisingly agrees. He tells his teammates to stay back and guard the rear, promising to handle the entire front wave of the horde by himself. Before they can even process his plan, the situation gets much worse. A terrifying, mutated enemy known as a blood zombie emerges from the crowd. The archer screams in horror. He warns Jihan that a blood zombie's head is made entirely of liquid, making it completely immune to regular physical attacks. Without proper magic, they stand no chance. But Jihan steps forward anyway. This was exactly why he chose the support class. He channels his newly unlocked divine power. Suddenly, glowing blue and red flame-like orbs manifest around Jihan's hands. His teammates watch in absolute shock as he unleashes a rare spell called the White Sacred Flames. This divine, multicolored fire is the ultimate counter to undead and liquid-based monsters. With a single wave of his hand, Jihan effortlessly incinerates the terrifying blood zombie, leaving his teammates completely speechless. Standing tall on the edge of the stone walls, Jihan looks down at the endless sea of rotting monsters clawing their way up toward him. Hunting 1,000 zombies is going to be a massive challenge. But Jihan is ready to go all out. As his first 6 kills flash on the system tracker, Jihan's legendary solo hunt officially begins. Jihan charges into the sea of undead, his weapons swinging with brutal precision. Within moments, his quest tracker jumps from 12 kills to 26. Whenever a mutated blood zombie tries to block his path, Jihan doesn't waste his energy. Instead, he releases a tiny, highly concentrated spark of his newly unlocked divine power, turning the liquid-headed monsters into ash instantly. His teammates watch from the tower in absolute disbelief. The archer from the LK group screams that this support player is a complete professional. Even the experienced Lim Gaeyoung is stunned. Controlling divine power with such precision while executing physical attacks is a combat feat only elite players should be able to pull off. As Jihan's kill count passes 200, a blue system notification flashes before his eyes. He has met the required conditions to fully comprehend a passive skill called an Otherworld's Faith. Immediately, his divine power stat increases from 6 to 7. In this game world, increasing stats usually requires endless, standard training. But Jihan knows a hidden, much faster method. In his previous life, the top-ranked saintess of the American First Guild, Sophia, revealed that a player could absorb raw stat power by praying over rare relics known as otherworldly divine items. However, there was a catch. These rare items only work during the game's tutorial era, and they are incredibly hard to find. Back then, Sophia complained that a mysterious player in South Korea was already quietly buying up and draining every single one of them. When Jihan regressed to the past, he immediately searched his family's luxury penthouse to find out who this mysterious collector was. What he discovered shocked him. He found a massive hoard of otherworldly divine items, but every single one of them had already been completely drained of its power. The secret collector was actually his late elder sister, Shang Jia. Before her tragic death, she and her husband, Yoon Sejin, were celebrated as South Korea's greatest players. Among her deactivated relics, Jihan managed to salvage one low-grade, E-rank item called the Steel Pole. Historically, otherworld priests used this heavy iron rod to strike cult members on the head to forcefully strengthen their faith. Even though its divine energy is almost entirely gone, The pole itself is virtually indestructible, making it the perfect weapon for Jihan to bash the skulls of the undead. While Jihan continues his relentless assault, Lim Gaeyong keeps a close eye on his movements. Jihan recognizes her instantly. In his past life, she was famously known as the Plum Blossom Sword. She had stepped up as the country's interim Sword King after the devastating betrayal of Yoon Sejin, only to meet a tragic end when Sejin eventually killed her. Feeling a sense of gratitude to see her alive again, Jihan listens as Gaeyong approaches him with an unexpected offer. She proposes that they team up, pointing out that working together will guarantee they both secure a much higher ranking in this defense mission. Jihan quickly pulls up his status window to check his progress. He is currently sitting in 5th place with 398 kills, while his personal side quest tracker shows 397 out of the required 1,000. But there is a massive problem. The tutorial has only 1 minute and 28 seconds remaining. At this rate, he will run out of time long before reaching his goal. Recognizing he needs to move fast, Jihan accepts Gaeyong's offer, leaving her and her partner to guard the tower's magic crystal. Then, before his teammates can even scream, Jihan leaps off the towering stone platform, diving headfirst into the massive swarm of zombies clawing at the outer walls below. Gripping his heavy steel pole, Jihan prepares to draw the entire horde into a single, massive cluster, planning to unleash a devastating explosion of energy to wipe them all out as the timer counts down. The screen flashes as the timer finally hits 0. The archer from the LK group stands frozen in absolute shock, staring at the sheer devastation Song Jihan left in his wake. A blue system notification pops up to confirm the results. Jihan and his team have successfully survived, securing first place in the 10 towers. However, Jihan's ambitious quest to single-handedly slay 1,000 zombies fell short. He ended the match with 560 kills. Instead of letting the disappointment get to him, Jihan realizes this goal was simply too high for his current level. He calmly notes that he will just have to try again once he grows stronger. As the Coliseum arena begins to fade and the game officially ends, Jihan's teammate practically explodes with gratitude. He begs Jihan to team up with him again in the future. Meanwhile, Lim Gaeyong is left staring in utter confusion. She cannot wrap her head around how a lower-level support class player could completely dominate the battlefield on his own. She even wonders if the game is somehow bugged. But Gaeyong knows real talent when she sees it. She realizes she needs to recruit Jihan for her guild, the Divergent Guild, before he logs out of the game. She quickly approaches Jihan, but the pressure of the moment gets to her. Instead of delivering a professional scouting pitch, she fumbles her words and nervously asks for his personal phone number. Gaeyong immediately panics. She realizes how unprofessional it looks to demand a stranger's number on their very first meeting, and she frantically tries to explain that she is asking strictly for business reasons. Holding his newly acquired status window in one hand and his trusty metal pipe in the other, Jihan calmly declines. He tells her that he simply cannot remember his phone number right now, but promises to let her know if they ever meet again. Gaeyong is left standing in complete disbelief. She wonders how on earth anyone could forget their own phone number, realizing she has just been thoroughly rejected. Back in the real world, Jihan walks down the busy city streets, scratching his head. His excuse to Gaeyong actually wasn't a lie. Having lived in the United States for years prior to his regression, he genuinely has no memory of his old Korean phone number. While Jihan has no immediate interest in joining a guild, he realizes he stood out far too much during the tutorial. In hindsight, he notes that he probably should have just taken her number instead. Stopping in the middle of the city, Jihan opens his status window to review his progress. He is now level 8, having raised his level by 2, and he has acquired 1,500 game points, or GP. But when he checks the system store, he finds a major obstacle. Low-grade divine items, like E-rank hammers and spikes, cost 3,000 GP each. He does not have enough. Even though prices in this past year of 2020 are much cheaper than what he remembers from the future, Jihan is still empty-handed. To progress, he needs more divine items to drain. Jihan decides his best option is to head back to his family penthouse at the Sword Palace and search the storage space of his late sister, Shang Jia, for any leftover relics. Stepping through the front doors of the penthouse, Jihan's eyes land on a pair of school loafers sitting neatly on the tiled floor. His hand begins to tremble against the door frame. A wave of intense emotion and heavy, painful regrets from his past life washes over him. In his former timeline, Jihan's single greatest, most agonizing regret was his failure to protect his beloved niece, Yoon Sea. A vivid memory flashes in his mind of holding her bloodied, unconscious body in his arms while screaming in raw agony. This dark memory only fuels his resolve to never let that tragedy happen again. Pushing the door open, Jihan steps barefoot into the quiet, softly lit apartment. Standing in the living room near a grand piano is his teenage niece, Yoon Sea. Surprised to see him awake and out of the house so early, she looks over her shoulder with a warm smile and playfully asks how he is handling his hangover. Jihan stands completely frozen, overwhelmed by the sight of her alive and well. In his past life, Sia had always smiled and confidently promised to protect her uncle. Staring at her face now, Jihan is filled with an indescribable sense of gratitude, knowing that his regression has finally granted him the second chance to protect her and rewrite their tragic destiny. Yoon Sia was only 18, but she had already been through so much. She was the daughter of Jihan's late sister and Yoon Sejin, a legendary hero famously known as the Sword King. Because her mother had worked tirelessly to support the family, Jihan had essentially raised Sia himself, forming an incredibly close bond with his niece. But the warmth of their reunion quickly fades when Sia shares some devastating news. She had returned early from her group trip because of a sudden phone call from her father. The Sword King had fallen in love with a Japanese woman. To accept his love, this woman had given him a cruel condition. He had to completely abandon his daughter and his country to defect to Japan. Hearing this, a cold, silent rage washes over Jihan. He cannot believe the sheer irresponsibility of a man who would throw away his own family and homeland for a relationship. In a sudden burst of fury, Jihan strikes the living room wall. The force of the blow shatters the framed family portrait hanging nearby, sending glass scattering across the floor. Immediately, Jihan regrets his outburst, worried he has frightened his niece. But Sia just smiles brightly. She calmly tells him she actually wanted to break that photo herself, reassuring him that she is completely fine. Watching her laugh, Jihan is deeply moved. Even after losing her mother and being abandoned by her father, Sia continues to smile, putting his worries before her own. Relieved, Jihan gently pats her head and thanks her. The heavy tension quickly melts away as Sia playfully wrinkles her nose, teasing him about how sweaty he smells, and tells him to go wash up while he brings home some instant noodles. Meanwhile, over at the headquarters of the Divergent Guild in Seoul, a very different kind of drama is unfolding. Lee Hae-in, the head of human resources, is laughing hysterically in the hallway. The entire scouting department is giggling over some embarrassing gossip. Lim Gaeong, the formidable fighter known as the Plum Blossom Sword, had just been completely rejected by Jihan. Even worse, he had used the most bizarre excuse possible, claiming he simply forgot his own phone number. Gaeong sulks, complaining that people only judge her by her intimidating appearance. When a few male colleagues walk by and tease her about going on a date, others quickly warn them to shut up, reminding them that Gaeong could easily slice them in half with her sword. To escape the teasing, Hae-in and Gaeong head to the quiet guild lounge to discuss how they might still recruit Jihan. But before they can even begin, Hae-in's phone buzzes with a live stream notification. The broadcast is titled BattleNet Winner Prediction, Mr. Shang. Intrigued, they open the stream and are shocked to find Jihan himself hosting a live broadcast. He is standing on the rooftop garden of the luxurious Sword Palace penthouse, with Sia acting as his camera operator. Looking directly at the camera, Jihan introduces himself to the online audience as the brother-in-law of the disgraced Sword King. The name drop immediately draws thousands of curious viewers, and the chat section explodes with wild theories. As the crowd watches, Jihan begins to warm up. He channels a glowing blue energy into his legs and stomps down hard, completely shattering the concrete pavement beneath his feet. But he isn't finished. Jihan channels his power further, summoning crackling blue lightning that strikes directly onto the twin sword statue. This massive monument stands on the rooftop as a famous national landmark, representing South Korea's pride in the Sword King's legacy. With glowing fists and devastating martial force, Jihan unleashes a barrage of strikes, completely smashing the giant statue to pieces. The live chat goes absolutely wild. The viewer count rapidly climbs past 1 million, with people cheering and laughing at the destruction of the traitor's monument. Standing amidst the floating debris with his suit jacket torn to shreds, Jihan looks directly into the camera. He is finally ready to deliver the ultimate blow to the Sword King's reputation, announcing to the massive audience that he is about to reveal the dark truth behind his brother-in-law's betrayal. To make the absolute most of this moment, Jihan decides to stream his confrontation on BattleTube. This is the official global streaming platform of BattleNet, and it is known for rewarding creators with massive payouts and rare achievements based on their views and engagement. Since Jihan is currently the most controversial figure in the country, starting a live broadcast is the perfect way to quickly gather power and resources. The system immediately registers his sudden debut, sending him notifications for unlocking major achievements as his view count skyrockets alongside over 100,000 dislikes. These dislikes are not random. They are coming from a toxic and highly fanatical fan club known as the Sword King family, who still blindly support Yoon Sejin. Jihan knows exactly how dangerous these fanatics can be. In his past life, this very mob was what drove his niece, Sia, to her tragic death. After her father betrayed the country, the public's collective anger slowly shifted toward her, resulting in endless threats, stalkers, and accusations. Unable to bear the pressure, Sia eventually took her own life. This time, Jihan is determined to protect her. He wants to draw all of that toxic hatred onto himself, gladly becoming the target of their fury so his niece can live in peace. With the cameras rolling, Jihan looks directly at the viewers and bluntly announces that the former hero has absolutely no intention of ever returning to Korea. To prove his point, he plays the original audio recording of the phone call Sejin made to Sia right before he defected. The audience listens in utter shock as the nation's legendary hero admits he abandoned his own daughter and his country just to satisfy the demands of a Japanese woman. In a single moment, the public's adoration turns to absolute disgust. Next, Jihan brings Sia onto the stream to address the viewers. Though she is visibly nervous, she stands tall and confirms that her father promised to pass down his multi-billion-won luxury penthouse to her. However, she proudly declares that she cannot accept an inheritance from a traitor. Instead, she announces her decision to donate the entire skyscraper to the nation to support the training of Korea's BattleNet players. This was all part of Jihan's careful planning. Just 30 minutes before going live, he had convinced Sia that this was their best option. He knew the government would have eventually confiscated the property anyway, so donating it voluntarily would turn a potential loss into the ultimate shield, winning over public favor and keeping Sia safe from any legal or social backlash. With the audience completely on their side, Jihan decides to deliver the final blow to his brother-in-law's remaining reputation. He looks straight into the camera and mocks Sejin, claiming he only fled to Japan because he was a has-been who could no longer compete in Korea. Jihan confidently warns him to get comfortable over there, promising that he will soon come to Japan to personally crush him. After the broadcast ends, Sia is incredibly anxious about the massive uproar they have caused in both countries. Jihan simply smiles and tells her not to worry about the stress, leaving her amazed by how much her uncle has changed into a confident, mature guardian. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and Jihan smiles, ready to use this massive momentum to finally make some money. Meanwhile, across the sea in Tokyo, Yoon Sejin sits in a dimly lit room, quietly watching the fallout of the stream. A Japanese woman named Shizuru enters and wraps her arms around him, comforting him against the sudden wave of international backlash. She softly reassures him that no matter what the world says, he is still her hero. As they share an intimate kiss, a mysterious pink magical energy begins to swirl around them, hinting that there is a much deeper, darker secret behind the hero's sudden betrayal.